Hi, everyone. Welcome back. Hope you've had a good week. Today we are continuing in the book of Second Kings with chapters 15, 16, and 17. These are kind of connector chapters, if you will. They are short blurbs about a lot of the lesser kings. Lesser, maybe they didn't reign very long, or they weren't as notable. To just kind of get us from point A to point B to the next chunk of time, if you will. So, with that, let us go ahead and begin with chapter 15. Again, standard disclaimer with the names, I'm doing my best. But if you hear somebody of actual authority on biblical, scholar stuff, go with how they pronounce the names. There's a lot of debate. All right, chapter 15. Azariah, son of Amaziah, king of Judah, became king in the 27th year of Jeroboam, king of Israel. He was 16 years old when he began to reign, and he reigned 52 years in Jerusalem. His mother, whose name was Jecoliah, was from Jerusalem. He pleased the Lord, just as his father Amaziah had done. Yet the high places did not disappear. The people continued to sacrifice and to burn incense on them. The Lord afflicted the king, and he was a leper to the day of his death. He lived in a house apart, while Jotham, the king's son, was vizier and regent for the people of the land. The rest of the acts of Azariah and all his accomplishments are recorded in the book of the Chronicles of the Kings of Judah. Azariah rested with his ancestors and was buried with them in the city of David. His son Jotham succeeded him as king. In the 38th year of Azariah, king of Judah, Zechariah, son of Jeroboam, was the king of Israel in Samaria for 6 months. He did evil in the sight of the Lord, as his fathers had done, and did not desist from the sins which Jeroboam, son of Nebat, had caused Israel to commit. Shallum, son of Jabesh, conspired against Zechariah, attacked and killed him at Ibleam, and reigned in his place. The rest of the acts of Zechariah are recorded in the book of the Chronicles of the Kings of Israel. Thus the Lord's promise to Jehu, your descendants to the 4th generation shall sit upon the throne of Israel, was fulfilled. Shallum, son of Jabesh, became the king in the 39th year of Uzziah, king of Judah. He reigned 1 month in Samaria. Menahem, son of Gadi, came up from Tirzah to Samaria, where he attacked and killed Shallum, son of Jabesh, and reigned in his place. The rest of the acts of Shallum and the facts of his conspiracy are recorded in the book of the Chronicles of the Kings of Israel. At that time, Menahem punished Tappuah, all the inhabitants of the town and of its whole district, because on his way from Tirzah they did not let him in. He punished them even to ripping open all the pregnant women. In the 39th year of Azariah, king of Judah, Menahem, son of Gadi, began his 10-year reign over Samaria. He did evil in the sight of the Lord, not desisting from the sins which Jeroboam, son of Nebat, had caused Israel to commit. During his reign, Pul, king of Assyria, invaded the land, and Menahem gave him 1,000 talents of silver to have his assistance in strengthening his hold on the kingdom. Menahem secured the money to give to the king of Assyria by exacting it from all the men of substance in the country, 50 silver shekels from each. The king of Assyria did not remain in the country, but withdrew. The rest of the acts of Menahem and all his accomplishments are recorded in the book of the Chronicles of the Kings of Israel. Menahem rested with his ancestors, and his son Pekahiah succeeded him as king. In the 50th year of Azariah, king of Judah, Pekahiah, son of Menahem, began his 2-year reign over Israel and Samaria. He did evil in the sight of the Lord, not desisting from the sins which Jeroboam, son of Nebat, had caused Israel to commit. His adjutant Pekah, son of Remaliah, who had with him 50 men from Gilead, conspired against him, killed him within the palace stronghold in Samaria, and reigned in his place. The rest of the acts of Pekahiah and all his accomplishments are recorded in the book of the Chronicles of the Kings of Israel. In the 52nd year of Azariah, king of Judah, Pekah, son of Remaliah, began his 20-year reign over Israel and Samaria. He did evil in the sight of the Lord, not desisting from the sins which Jeroboam, son of Nebat, had caused Israel to commit. During the reign of Pekah, king of Israel, Tiglath-Pileser, king of Assyria, came and took Ijon, Abel-Beth-Maachah, Genoa, Kadesh, Hazor, and all the territory of Naphtali, Gilead, and Galilee, deporting the inhabitants to Assyria. Hoshea, son of Elad, conspired against Pekah, son of Remaliah. He attacked and killed him and reigned in his place, in the 20th year of Jotham, son of Uzziah. The rest of the acts of Pekah and all his accomplishments are recorded in the book of the Chronicles of the Kings of Israel. In the 2nd year of Pekah, son of Remaliah, king of Israel, Jotham, son of Uzziah, king of Judah, began to reign. He was 25 years old when he became king, and he reigned 16 years in Jerusalem. His mother's name was Jerusha, daughter of Zadok. He pleased the Lord just as his father Uzziah had done. Nevertheless, the high places did not disappear, and the people continued to sacrifice and burn incense on them. It was he who built the upper gate of the temple of the Lord. The rest of the acts of Jotham and all his accomplishments are recorded in the book of the Chronicles of the Kings of Judah. It was at that time that the Lord first loosed Rezin, king of Aram, and Pekah, son of Remaliah, against Judah. Jotham rested with his ancestors and was buried with them in his forefather's city of David. His son Ahaz succeeded him as king. Chapter 16. In the 17th year of Pekah, son of Remaliah, Ahaz, son of Jotham, king of Judah, began to reign. Ahaz was 20 years old when he became king, and he reigned 16 years in Jerusalem. He did not please the Lord his God like his forefather David, but conducted himself like the kings of Israel, and even immolated his son by fire in accordance with the abominable practice of the nations whom the Lord had cleared out of the way of the Israelites. Further, he sacrificed and burned incense on the high places, on hills, and under every leafy tree. Then Rezin, king of Aram, and Pekah, son of Remaliah, king of Israel, came up to Jerusalem to attack it. Although they besieged Ahaz, they were unable to conquer him. At the same time, the king of Edom recovered Elath for Edom, driving the Judeans out of it. The Edomites then entered Elath, which they have occupied until the present. Meanwhile, Ahaz sent messengers to Tiglath-Pileser, king of Assyria, with this plea: I am your servant and your son. Come up and recuse me from the clutches of the king of Aram and the king of Israel, who are attacking me. Ahaz took the silver and gold that were in the temple of the Lord and in the palace treasuries and sent them as a present to the king of Assyria, who listened to him and moved against Damascus, which he captured. He deported its inhabitants to Kir and put Rezin to death. King Ahaz went to Damascus to meet Tiglath-Pileser, king of Assyria. When he saw the altar in Damascus, King Ahaz sent to Uriah the priest a model of the altar and a detailed design of its construction. Uriah the priest built an altar according to the plans which King Ahaz sent to him from Damascus, and had it completed by the time the king had returned home. On his arrival from Damascus, the king inspected this altar, then went up to it and offered sacrifice on it, burning his holocaust and cereal offering, pouring out his libation, and sprinkling the blood of his peace offerings on the altar. The bronze altar that stood before the Lord he brought from the front of the temple, that is, from the space between the new altar and the temple of the Lord, and set it on the north side of his altar. Upon the large altar, King Ahaz commanded Uriah the priest, burn the morning holocaust and the evening cereal offering, the royal holocaust and cereal offering, as well as the holocaust, cereal offerings, and libations of the people. You must also sprinkle on it all the blood of the holocaust and sacrifices, but the old bronze altar shall be mine for consultation. Uriah the priest did just as King Ahaz had commanded. King Ahaz detached the frames from the bases and removed the lavers from them. He also took down the bronze sea from the bronze oxen and that supported it, and set it on a stone pavement. In deference to the king of Assyria, he removed from the temple of the Lord the emplacement which had been built in the temple for a throne, and the outer entrance for the king. The rest of the acts of Ahaz are recorded in the book of the Chronicles of the Kings of Judah. Ahaz rested with his ancestors and was buried with them in the city of David. His son Hezekiah succeeded him as king. Chapter 17. In the 12th year of Ahaz, king of Judah, Hoshea, son of Elah, began his 9-year reign over Israel and Samaria. He did evil in the sight of the Lord, yet not to the extent of the kings of Israel before him. Shalmaneser, king of Assyria, advanced against him, and Hoshea became his vassal and paid him tribute. But the king of Assyria found Hoshea guilty of conspiracy for sending envoys to the king of Egypt at Sais, and for failure to pay the annual tribute to his Assyrian overlord. For this, the king of Assyria arrested and imprisoned Hoshea, then occupied the whole land and attacked Samaria, which he besieged for 3 years. In the 9th year of Hoshea, the king of Assyria took Samaria and deported the Israelites to Assyria, settling them in Hala at the Habor, a river in Gozan, and in the cities of the Medes. This came about because the Israelites sinned against the Lord their God, who had brought them up from the land of Egypt, from under the dominion of Pharaoh, king of Egypt, and because they venerated other gods, again, they were worshiping other false gods. That's the number one commandment. You must not do that. They followed the rites of the nations whom the Lord had cleared out of the way of the Israelites, and the kings of Israel whom they set up. They adopted unlawful practices towards the Lord their God. They built high places, and all their settlements, the watchtowers, as well as the walled cities. They set up pillars and sacred poles for themselves on every high hill and under every leafy tree. There, on all the high places, they burned incense like the nations whom the Lord had sent into exile at their coming. They did evil things that provoked the Lord, and served idols, although the Lord had told them, "You must not do this." And though the Lord warned Israel and Judah by every prophet and seer, "Give up your evil ways and keep my commandments and statutes in accordance with the entire law which I enjoined on your fathers, which I sent to you by my servants the prophets," they did not listen, but were as stiff-necked as their fathers, and who had not believed in the Lord their God. They rejected his statutes, the covenant which he had made with their fathers, and the warnings which he had given them. The vanity they pursued, they themselves became. They followed the surrounding nations whom the Lord had commanded them not to imitate. They disregarded all the commandments of the Lord their God, and made for themselves 2 molten calves. They also made a sacred pole and worshipped all the hosts of heaven and served Baal. They immolated their sons and daughters by fire, practiced fortune-telling and divination, and sold themselves into evil doing in the Lord's sight, provoking him till, in his great anger against Israel, the Lord put them away out of his sight. Only the tribe of Judah was left. Even the people of Judah, however, did not keep the commandments of the Lord their God, but followed the rite practiced by Israel. So the Lord rejected the whole race of Israel. He afflicted them and delivered them over to plunderers, finally casting them out from before him. When he tore Israel away from the house of David, they made Jeroboam son of Nebat king. He drove the Israelites away from the Lord, causing them to commit a great sin. The Israelites imitated Jeroboam in all the sins he committed, nor would they desist from them. Finally, the Lord put Israel away out of his sight, as he had foretold through all of his servants, the prophets, and Israel went to exile from their native soil to Assyria, an exile lasting to the present when this was written. The king of Assyria brought people from Babylon, Katha, Ava, Hamath, and Sepharvaim, and settled them in the cities of Samaria in place of the Israelites. They took possession of Samaria and dwelt in its cities. When they first settled there, they did not venerate the Lord, so he sent lions among them that killed some of their number. A report reached the king of Assyria. "The nations whom you departed and settled in the cities of Samaria do not know how to worship the God of the land, and he has sent lions among them that are killing them, since they do not know how to worship the God of the land." The king of Assyria gave the order, "Send back one of the priests whom I deported, to go there and settle and to teach them how to worship the God of the land." So one of the priests who had been deported from Samaria returned and settled in Bethel and taught them how to venerate the Lord. But these peoples began to make their own gods in the various cities in which they were living, in the shrines on the high places which the Sumerians had made. Each people set up gods. Thus the Babylonians made Marduk and his consort. The men of Cuth made Nergal. The men of Hamath made Ashima. The men of Ava made Nibhaz and Tartak. The men of Sepharvaim immolated their children by fire to their city gods, King Hadad and his consort Anath. They also venerated the Lord, choosing from their number priests for the high places, who officiated for them in the shrines on the high places. But while venerating the Lord, they served their own gods, following the worship of the nations from among whom they had been deported. To this day they worship according to their ancient rites. They did not venerate the Lord nor observe the statutes and regulations, the law and commandments which the Lord enjoined on the descendants of Jacob, whom he had named Israel. When he made a covenant with them, he commanded them, "You must not venerate other gods, nor worship them, nor serve them, nor offer sacrifice to them. The Lord who brought you up from the land of Egypt, with great power and outstretched arm, him shall you venerate, him shall you worship, and to him shall you sacrifice. You must be careful to observe forever the statutes and regulations, the law and commandment, which he wrote for you, and you must not venerate other gods. The covenant which I made with you, you must not forget. You must not venerate other gods, but the Lord your God you must venerate. It is he who will deliver you from the power of all your enemies." They did not listen, however, but continued in their earlier manner. Thus these nations venerated the Lord, but also served their idols. And their sons and grandsons to this day are doing as their fathers did. And there ends chapter 17. So a lot of the same thing. The ones who do evil in the sight of the Lord, they follow the sins of Jeroboam and what he caused Israel to commit, which was worshiping other gods. To clarify that, it doesn't go well for them. You have to wonder sometimes, why include every single king and whether he did this or not. For one, is to be a complete history. You can't skip a king, otherwise there'll be questions of, wait, you go from year 1 to year 5 with this king, year 5 to 10 with that king, and then all of a sudden it's year 20. What happened between there? You need to have a complete picture. But also, it's just to really, I believe, drive the point home. This is what they were doing, and these were the consequences of that. It's talking about people who didn't follow the statutes. They were not serving the Lord. They were living as those around them were living. They were living for the world, not living for the Lord. And can't help but draw parallels to where we are in our present day. Some things don't change. The Israelites were falling into lifestyles of those around them that were evil in the sight of the Lord. They were surrounded by it, and they weren't strong enough to withstand it. They gave into it. So we need to make sure in our lives, no, we're not living in, biblical times in the Middle East, but we are living now, and there are plenty of temptations and other things around us. It looks different than it did then. We don't have our neighbors building, fake idols and, bowing down to them and offering sacrifices to them that we then join in with. But what are the people that we're surrounded by? Are they serving the Lord, or are they serving something else? Are they following something else? Are they being influenced and making decisions to please someone or something else? Something to always keep in mind and keep check on. Just kind of, what do they call it? Do a heart check, something like that. Just think for yourself. What am I serving? What am I doing this for? Who am I looking to? Who am I looking to please? To do good in their sight? If it's not God, if you're trying to do everything to impress those around you, if you're making decisions that go against what the Lord tells us, but you want to look cool for your friends or a boss or someone at work, if you're doing it to please them and it would displease the Lord, probably shouldn't be doing it. But anyway, on that note, it's something that we all have to keep an eye on. I certainly do as well. So, on that note, I hope you're all winning that battle against the world. And if you're not, just pray to ask the Lord to show you, ask the Holy Spirit to show you where you need to check yourself and check your heart posture. He'll show you. He'll point it out to you or convict you. He'll convict you of that. And then we just do our best with that and ask the Lord for help. Anyway, all right, that's enough. On that note, let us go ahead and close and say the Lord's Prayer together. Our Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done, on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our trespasses, as we forgive those who trespass against us. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. For thine is the kingdom, the power, and the glory, forever and ever. Amen. Amen. All right. I hope you have a great week, and I will see you next Sunday. Bye-bye.